Australia's economy is growing only because its population is growing, mainly due to immigration, migration. And if you look at, there you go, on the chart, it shows you per capita growth during the Fraser years, on the left of your screen there. Then it shoots up during the Hawke and Keating years and the Howard years. Those two strong blue graphs, that was per capita growth. That's when all of us got wealthier, richer, our kids did better. That was all during the 70s and 80s. That's when it was all happening for Australia. Then you get a kind of less per capita growth during the Abbott, virtually none during the Rudd-Gillard years. No surprise there. A couple of clowns they were. But then it picks up again during the Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison, with the dip during COVID. And then look at the little miserable red worm at the very end of your graph there. Absolutely pathetic. The destruction of Australia's per capita growth by Labor. They've destroyed the economy.
That's
They've
a per capita recession.
Yes. They've destroyed your kids' opportunities and futures. They've destroyed our prosperity. They're destroying the very things that made Australia great. Shame on them. But sorry, James.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like there was an article, and it was so cynical that they pushed out through the Nine media this week that said, again, this, how much smaller our economy would be without this. They are literally saying that the only thing that's keeping us going is people from overseas, because we can't train our own people, we can't have our own babies. All of these things are so defeatist. It's such a negative attitude. And I really think the junkie or the alcoholic metaphor is really, really apt here. This is like saying, what Labor is saying is like somebody who is a complete 2 bottle of bourbon a day drunk saying, hey, I can't get off the booze because if I get off the booze, I might start seeing bats and I won't be able to stop shaking. This is not a healthy situation that we're in. We have a problem. We need to do something about it.
They're saying the quiet bit out loud. They're unashamed about it now, saying that without this influx, economically we're going to struggle. But if that influx came with increased living standards, I'd say, OK, perhaps worth it. But we are seeing our living standards drop. And that is something that's being felt across the board, whether you're in a socioeconomic group that's struggling or whether even you're in the sort of upper income bands, you are feeling this hit. People are hurting, and you can see that with, it's going to get worse with the housing crisis that they've induced with their stupid tax hikes, because you've got people now who are in negative equity, people who are encouraged to go out and buy a property with this 5% deposit scheme they've been pushing. And now their properties in some instances are worth less than the loan they have.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
that is economically catastrophic for those households.
It is vandalism. Now, we're going to run you an ad that they're running overseas for that 5% Aussie home loan. So the Albanese, like your metaphor of the drug addict, the junkie, whatever, absolutely. They're touting overseas 5% Aussie home buyers loans. Have a look at this ad.
對好多澳洲人而言，置業似乎遙不可及。但而家澳洲政府5% Deposit Scheme 已經推出新安排，所有首次置業人士都可以受惠，收入上限已被取消，而合資格住宅範圍亦進一步擴大。
This is the sort of thing that gives me, and I think an awful lot of people, an absolute aneurysm. I could feel my blood pressure absolutely spiking during that. This is the thing. We are actually now at this point now where we've just, it is now literally, they are playing into every single criticism that people on this show, a lot of people in One Nation, some people in the Liberals have had about the migration policy. Tony Abbott has been exceedingly articulate on this, that we are now nothing more than an economy. We are nothing more than a GDP. The only loyalty, you see Anthony Albanese talk about Australian values, and then the best thing that he can do is whip out his Medicare card. So all he's done is created this sort of cult of government to be the replacement identity for being, an Australian. And now it's simply just about getting bodies in, keeping the Ponzi scheme working. Exactly. This is all this is. It's a Ponzi scheme. And there's a second element to this, of course. There's the second bit. We remember when Jacinta Price got into trouble, mostly from the centre-left of her own party, over her own...
The bedwetters, to give it their technical name.
Yes, Alex Hawke and that whole crew. And for what she said about the government bringing in migrants because they're going to vote Labour. Well, you know, last week when you were away on Insiders,
We saw that.
they talked about, oh, well, isn't it, you know, fantastic, all these, you know, new Indian migrants who came to the Modi rally, Labour wants them. And now the Daily Telegraph, my friend Matthew Benz has reported a great story that local councils in Western Sydney are being pushed to increase the number of citizenship ceremonies amid accusations the federal government is trying to mint new Labour voters before the next election. The idea now is so cynical. It is to use migration to lock in a permanent Labour advantage. This is what we're up against.
Well, they've brought in so many people that they're now big waiting lists for citizenship ceremonies. So they can turn elections. When you've got marginal electorates, that could turn an election if you go and naturalise a few thousand people who predominantly vote a certain way. And let's not forget, what Jacinta Price said was based on what a Labor pollster had stated. He can say it without any issue.
Yep.
And he was saying he was talking specifically about Indian migration, which is the biggest growing sector, will overtake, it'll be number one shortly. And according to him, something like around 80% are voting for Labor. That could turn elections. We're talking about significant numbers.
Absolutely keep us. Another 3 years of Labor will destroy this country. I want to pick up on two things that Rita said about One Nation having the strength. One Nation's greatest strength is the ability to say what people are thinking, that the political class, the elitists in Canberra, refuse to talk about, particularly the coalition. One such thing being, of course, immigration, as we were discussing, but also just, James, to your point, and we'll play a clip of Pauline Hanson at CPAC in just a second. But to your point about One Nation's economic agenda, the key thing which ties these two things together is that One Nation has said they will abolish all these kind of climate change institutions, AEMOs, climate authorities, all this garbage.
Labour keeps telling you the economy is resilient. Have a look at the graph Rowan Dean put up on Sky News and tell me that word again with a straight face. That little red worm crawling along the bottom is your per capita growth, and it is not resilient, it is flatlining. Good day, and welcome to Aussie Insider. If you are sick of political spin dressed up as economic management, hit subscribe and smash that notification bell, because this channel does not carry water for Labour, the coalition, or anyone else. We call it as the numbers show it, not as the press release spins it. Let us be clear about the judgment first. This government has presided over a collapse in per capita growth, and no amount of talking points changes that outcome. Rowan Dean did not mince words, calling it absolutely pathetic, and accusing Labour of destroying the very things that made Australia great. Strong language, yes, but the graph backs him up. Here is why this matters to you, not to some economist in Canberra. Per capita growth is the only honest measure of whether ordinary Australians are getting ahead. Total GDP can look fine while population growth masks the fact that each individual is going backwards. That is exactly what has been happening. Your wage might have gone up. Your actual purchasing power has not. This is where the story gets worse. While households absorb higher mortgage repayments, higher grocery bills, and higher energy costs, the government's response has been messaging, not management. Announcements about cost of living relief that amount to a rounding error against what families are actually losing. And this is the part nobody in Canberra wants to talk about. This is not a one-off bad quarter. It is a pattern stretching back through this government's term, hidden behind population growth numbers that flatter the headline figures. We are not here to defend the coalition either. Their record on productivity was nothing to boast about. But right now, it is Labour holding the wheel, and Labour being judged by results, not intentions. Thanks for watching Aussie Insider.